guess you have to leave before we're done. We might have requested that MS Word file.
Say that again.
The MS Word.
I didn't forget about it. Okay, I didn't forget about it. All right, I'll take it.
Just figured it was a long weekend, so.
You ready, Robert? The time is now. Oh, wait, are we doing this first? I'm sorry. The time is now 7:01 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Jerome Township Board of Trustees public hearing for case number ZT24-001. Eric?
Madam Chair, Mr. Caldwell, could you roll call first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Adler?
Present.
Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Kraft is absent.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Trustee Adler, and everybody. I'm just going to stand up mainly just so I can move around a little bit. This text amendment is number ZT24-001. You will find a version dated February 18th on your table, as well as the version that was reviewed by the Zoning Commission. But I just want to take a moment to explain very quickly how we got here. Once a year, Peyton and I sit down and we take a look at the requirements in the zoning resolution that have generated a number of variance requests. We take a look at our notes of things that are particularly confusing or that have come up as being a problem or brought to our attention as maybe being slightly, could be worded better and those sort of things. We keep a list of those, and once a year we bring that before the Township Zoning Commission. So we brought that before the Zoning Commission late last year. The Zoning Commission reviewed it and set a public hearing. We sent a copy to LUC Regional Planning Commission, who recommended approval with modifications. A revised version dated the 13th of last month was reviewed by Ms. Huber and went before the Zoning Commission, and the Zoning Commission recommended approval with modifications. And that brings us to the version in front of you tonight. I'm going to, Mrs. Davis, in the pile to your left, there is, my right is a version dated the 18th. I just want to make sure somebody's not looking at that one. Okay. So, I'm going to quickly go through this. Please stop me if I'm confusing. But the purpose of this is primarily annual housekeeping. On page 2, there are no changes proposed. Page 3, I'm going to come back to as my very last item, page 3 and 4, because those are the most confusing portions of the entire text. Page 5, the township has received a number of variances to rear yard setbacks, primarily for decks, for both practical and historical reasons. In order to alleviate the number of variances that we're seeing and be a little more flexible, I drafted this exception, which basically just says, remembering that a deck when attached to a house is part of the house and therefore subject to the rear yard setback, this allows a 10-foot encroachment for an open deck on the rear of the house, so we're not having nearly as many variances and being a little more permissive for our residents. Regarding the next page, page 6, the purpose of the section there in red is to be a backstop. We have some plan districts that may or may not provide a minimum lot area, meaning a lot size as to how much square foot area is in the lot. And so in order to allow my office to issue minor subdivisions and kind of keep the general development process moving, I wrote this. Everything in this chapter is like everything in this section is a backstop, and so subsection E is simply saying if there's no other regulation, the minimum lot area is 10,000 square feet. That's a pretty small amount, but the idea is just to be a backstop when there's nothing else. We wouldn't want, for example, someone to make a lot that's so small at a certain point you can't build on it. Now, why anybody would do that, common sense would say you wouldn't do that, but I can tell you from experience, absent a minimum lot area, it can happen. But that's the purpose.
Tiny homes.
What's that?
Tiny homes.
Tiny homes is something totally different. Okay. Regarding page 7, All that is doing is saying the same thing more correctly with regard to farm markets. Regarding page 8 for signs, a couple years ago, I worked with the zoning commission to do a major update to our sign chapter. That is working much differently. We've gone from every single building having to have variances for the signs to most sign things moving forward as a by right. That's good, we want that. The purpose of all of this is to basically say the same things more correctly, with one exception. Under subsection 2C, under the section related to where it says the following signs shall be permitted in all districts without the requirement for a sign permit, there is a section that says signs clearly in the nature of decorations or customarily associated with certain holidays. I want to address that because I don't want any confusion that the township is suddenly regulating your holiday decoration. That is not accurate. The purpose of this section, subsection 2C, and the paragraph at the top on page 8, is to simply say this: a sign of any type that's listed here doesn't require a permit, and it's subject only to the zoning regulations for safety. Okay. So what that means is that safety would be the clear vision area, signs in the right-of-way, and signs over fire escapes and those sort of things that would be unsafe. The township is not going to be regulating your holiday decorations, but the point is that there are times in my line of work where someone will build a structure that violates the sign regulations for safety, again, clear vision area, corner lot, in the right-of-way, and they'll just happen to put Merry Christmas on it, and they'll say, well, it's an exempt sign. No, it still needs to abide by the safety regulations. Now, my office, I like to also explain, just as I did at the zoning commission hearing, I think this gets into enforcement. What happens when my office gets a complaint about something like this? My office does not go out and write up residents for holiday decorations. That is not accurate. That is not a good use of the people's time. But if there is a sign of any type, even if it happens to say Happy Halloween, but it's in an area that is unsafe that we've determined elsewhere in the zoning resolution because of its location, my office can make contact with those folks, educate them, explain why it's unsafe. Again, it's complaint-based. It's complaint-based. It is not enforcement.
Including political signs?
I did not reference political signs at all. It isn't necessary to comment on political signs. The sign regulations for safety would apply to that as well. The court also hasn't given us a lot of guidance on political signs. Pete, you want to weigh in on any of that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a huge First Amendment issue.
Correct.
So
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
typically,
we
most
weren't.
people don't regulate at all.
Political signs.
Political
Yes.
signs.
Okay,
Nowhere in our code does it say political signs in any way.
okay, got
It's
it.
completely content neutral in that
Correct.
case. Regarding page 9, there was an oversight. Joint identification signs is redundant. That just means a sign with two different tenants on it on the same lot. I propose to cut that section and reinsert into the code signs at driveway approaches. When we revised chapter 615 several years ago, we inadvertently took out the signs and access points. These are the small signs, sometimes referred to as directional signs, in commercial zoning districts that say in and out and those sort of things. We inadvertently prohibited those. That wasn't the intention a couple years ago. I'm reintroducing that into the code as a type of allowable sign, subject to the regulations that are here, which are pretty typical stuff.
One quick question. I think
Yes, sir.
no more than one sign of this type shall be permitted for driveway approach. What if you have one on either side of the driveway, in and out, for example?
Yeah, that should say.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That should probably say too, Barry. I agree with you. Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is on page 9, subsection 3A, where it says no more than, it should say no more than 2, correct? I agree with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because especially if you're saying this
Yep.
regulates in and out signs, you usually have one on one side of the driveway, one on the
Yep.
other side.
That's probably an oversight on my part. Makes sense, right? Okay. I will annotate that on my copy. Great catch, Barry. Okay, on the next page, everything on that page is finding a more correct way to say the same exact thing. There's no policy changes on page 10. It's all just housekeeping. Regarding page 11, basically the same thing. LUC pointed out in their review under subsection F, halfway down that page, that we were being, let's see, we had a regulation that said no billboard shall be located nearer than 25 feet to any side lot line or the side yard setback for the principal building in any zoning district, whichever is greater. So we had a section that inadvertently said the side setback is 25 feet, but if you have a zoning district that the setback is more, the billboard should abide as a type of land use. That's only for billboards. It doesn't get into regular sign, normal on-premises signs. So that was an oversight. Regarding page 12, I will just skip over that because I think what I'm going to do on page 13 is explain what this is saying. All this red on page 13 and into page 14 is saying this. We are being too restrictive on people's fences. Couple things to remember about fences. First is, any fence that's over 6 feet automatically generates a building permit. So because of that, the overwhelming amount of fences, either for residential or non-residential uses, are less than 6 feet. Because folks just don't want to get involved with all that. Totally fine. Okay. We as the township currently say in a residential district or accessory to a residential use that the maximum height of a fence in those cases is 6 feet. Well, Peyton and I have been approached by several folks. If this is my lot has, let's say for a principal dwelling, front, side, and rear setbacks for the principal dwelling. Anywhere in this buildable area, a single-family dwelling in my residential lot can go. But let's just say hypothetically, here's my house, just hypothetically. So what we have said as the township in our current regulations is anywhere basically here, you can have a fence up to 6 feet.
Can I interrupt? Can
Yeah.
you push that back further so people in the audience may be able to see that?
Okay, well, if I do that, I'm happy to do that, but then you're going to have trouble seeing Mary.
No, I can, if you just move straight back.
Okay.
'Cause I see them looking at you like,
Well-
what are you talking about?
Okay. Well,
Thanks.
sure. All right. So we've said 6 feet no matter what. Well, Peyton and I have been approached by a couple folks, and it really doesn't matter whether this is a normal residential lot, let's say, or a large piece of property. One of the things that's been pointed out, we'll have somebody back here with a patio, let's say. And they'll say, look, I want to put a fence because of the nature of my lot or just because I want to. I want to put a fence up to 8 feet there. I'm going to get a building permit. I'm going to do it properly. And we're saying as the township, you can't do that. Well, they could build a building addition there up to 35 feet. They could build an open deck. They could build a 2-story open deck. So at a certain point, if you're following the setbacks also for the principal building, why should the township restrict the height of the fence if you're also following the regulations? So I would say all of what we're doing there, all that red is basically saying that's going to be okay. If you observe the setbacks, you can have a higher fence, even in residential. You're still subject to the height of the, for this district, if somebody wanted to build a wall higher than 35 feet, we would say no, okay, because that's the height for the district. Second of all, the cost of that is way more than the average person is going to get into. But in the case of somebody that's really serious and does want to do it, why are we using zoning to restrict that? The last thing to remember is, regardless of what regulations we have for fences, if someone lives in an HOA that says the max height is 4 feet, end of conversation, doesn't matter what the township does. So we're trying to be as permissive as we can with the understanding that there's some other regulatory controls out there. The average person we could go 10 years and never have this, but there's not a reason to restrict it when it's very clearly they could build a building there. Same for commercial non-residential, we're saying the same thing. We're saying, in some cases, we said the fence had to be 7 feet, and then we're saying it could go up to 8 feet, and then another section we said 10 feet, it just done. The maximum height in a residential use, if you're in the setback, is 6 feet. Everywhere else, there's no maximum height. It's the maximum height of the district for a building or structure, and the same for residential. If you're in the setback for the principal building in non-residential, it's 8 feet. If you're behind, another example, we've had a couple folks down in the Commerce District say, look, I'm going to build a freestanding wall that's 20 feet high, but I'm observing the setback. Why is the township restricting me at 8 feet? I don't have a good reason for that. They're right. If I'm observing the setback for the principal building, there's not a reason to say I shouldn't build a taller fence. So,
Yeah, common sense.
it's common sense, but everything, all the red there that you're seeing on page 13 is to say those things. And 14. On page 15, everything that you're seeing there is saying the same thing more correctly. Okay. The one change is on page 16. On page 16, you see a table for maximum allowable area for accessory buildings in aggregate. Okay? This is the #1 most varied section of our entire zoning resolution. When I started as a planner here 5 years ago, there was a young man here who told me, you know, Eric, there's a reason why folks choose to live in the township or choose to get properties that are 1 acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, and so forth, because they want to have accessory buildings to use for their purposes. That young man was Robert Caldwell. I can pick on him and say it. Robert and folks like him are absolutely right in that regard. We are seeing, on the whole, 3 or 4 times a year, variance requests to this section, especially the section between 1 acre and 2 acres seems to be a particular problem. I did this exact same thing a couple years ago, where we basically took whatever was the smallest and we moved everybody up a category based on the size. The only purpose of this table is to just try to have a little bit of control on a accessory building being massively larger than the home that's on the lot. That is the only purpose. So what I'm proposing, again, be a little bit more permissive, give people more flexibility. Keep in mind a 720 square foot garage is only a 3-car garage. Okay, so that's relatively small depending on how you look at it. So what I'm proposing in each case, that this would be more permissive, folks would basically be in the next category, there'd be more flexibility, and hopefully we'll see fewer variance requests, which always kind of muck up the works and cause confusion. We'll have folks less upset with us regarding this regulation, and the folks will start to run into some other requirements, which is the cost of the building, setbacks, they still have to observe the setbacks, the septic systems, they still have to avoid if they have them. So that's the purposes of that, again, just being more permissive, being more flexible, only regulating the things that are absolutely necessary for the protection of the health and safety of the township. We're seeing a lot of variances, and that's not, we're seeing a lot of confusion in that section. Regarding page 17, that is all housekeeping. It's saying the same thing more correctly. There's no changes. The 2 remaining sections are section 19 and page 19 and 20. I started to do some work in this adult entertainment establishment section, and it came to my attention that we had a little bit of a bigger problem. Our township zoning regulations for adult entertainment uses were written in 1986. I reviewed the file. I don't believe that the Township Zoning Commission at the time, and apologies if any of the folks are still out there, but I don't believe that any of the folks at the time had legal counsel review what they wrote in 1986. That's based on our file. The purposes of 665.001 is to state the reasons for regulating adult uses. It's important to remember that adult uses are a constitutionally protected use. Pete, am I saying that correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay. And by the way, Jen and I did go over all of this to her satisfaction. Did she speak with you about this a second? Okay, great. The purpose section there is from a model text. What we had written really didn't make it, what the township had written really didn't make any sense. Regarding 665.01, we had made up, or we had incorporated definitions of adult uses that differed from the definitions provided in the Ohio Revised Code. So I wrote a text section that said the term adult entertainment establishment as used in this resolution shall have the same meaning as provided in section 2907.39 of the Revised Code. An adult entertainment establishment is all of those things. Okay? We don't need to define it. We don't need to define it, should not define it in a way that's different than state law. We need to follow what the Revised Code says in that definition. The last section, 665.02, we had not, as the township, stated that adult entertainment establishments were a conditional use. The way it was written, it could have been interpreted that it was a permitted use in certain districts. That is not my recommendation. We need to make it a conditional use so that the Board of Zoning Appeals can review a conditional use permit for an adult use if one is established. So obviously that was concerning to me that we had not stated it was a conditional use. We stated could have been interpreted as a permitted use. That's not a good idea.
Eric, why regional retail?
Yeah, why? Great question. Well, first of all, I think that's what they were implying prior to me being here. The reason is because you need to allow it in a certain zoning district, correct? So we cannot fully prohibit adult uses categorically, correct?
Correct.
We don't have that constitutional authority. Yes,
But
Greg?
along that line, isn't making it a conditional use opening the opportunity to reject it and not permit it anywhere? Is that illegal?
Yeah, if it doesn't meet these criteria, but like anything, if the BZA would have a reasonable reason to deny an application based upon the standards that are listed here,
So
they
they have to
would have
justify
that
it.
authority. You can regulate it, you just can't prohibit it.
We were doing neither. We were actually, it was ambiguous at best, but we actually might have been saying it was a permitted use in the RR district. Don't do that. Say it's a conditional use so the BZA can review it. We need to be more restrictive than we're currently being, I think.
Correct.
Are the feet provided here up for discussion?
You can modify those. Most of the, well, anything's up for discussion. It's your meeting.
Yeah, okay, so for instance, it says no adult entertainment shall be established within a radius of 2,000 feet of any other adult establishment, which I get it, but I'd like to see that the amount of feet it is from a park or a school or a recreational facility is more than it would be even from another facility. So, are you following?
Yeah, some of this is in the existing code. I'm not saying we can't look at it. Pete, well, I think, do you understand what her question is?
She's saying number 3 says 1,500 feet from a
Yeah.
school, and then we're saying 2,000 feet
And
from another.
1,500 feet from a church, I'd like to double that number, for instance.
We make them all 2,000.
I think you could probably make them all 2,000. I mean, so you also have to be somewhat careful in that if your regulations effectively prohibit the placement of, so if I drew like a 2,000-foot radius from all these things and there was nowhere I could go, you effectively zone those out, which also is unconstitutional.
But aren't we zoning out competition by doing that, for instance? Because if the 2,000 square, we're saying you can't be within this establishment, which is a violation of, I don't know.
No, you're right. You can increase the distance.
Okay.
That you can do. My point is, I don't know in terms of if we looked at a map and started drawing 4,000 foot radiuses around all these kind of what I'm going to call exclusionary zones, have we effectively
Zoned it out.
zoned it out, right? So
The answer to that might be maybe, Mrs. Davis, if you're, we can I don't think, I would just be concerned. I would want to study it.
I have an issue with having more feet required, a larger distance just because someone else got there first who has this establishment than
Yeah.
a church or a school, for instance.
Yeah, you could probably bump them all up to 1,500 to 2,000 and make them just all the same. if
Yeah.
you wanted to. I think you could do.
What do you,
I think you can do that.
I couldn't say definitively without doing a map study. With respect, I wasn't proposing to change those. You can certainly do it. That is totally within the power of the board. Mrs. Davis, what would you think, or Mr. Anner, what would you think? Would you want to make them all 1,500 or all 2,000? I can't say I hear what Pete's saying. I can't say definitively without doing a map study on it.
Just a quick question. Where are the regional retail areas in our township, and how close are they to schools?
And the answer is, it depends, because it depends on where they're located on the map. There's regional retail areas in or zones, different portions of the township.
Is there
So
anything
if-
currently zoned at 33 and 42 that's regional retail?
Yes.
So, you know,
So at 2,000 feet is approximately, what, a third of a mile? Slightly more than a third. And you've got a church right here on the corner.
Okay, and then you got the school.
And a school.
So, so these type of uses want to go in high visibility areas.
The good news is it's also
Typically
common
right off
district.
of, it is, so they tell me. They want to go to high visibility areas, right? Typically right off of interchanges. That's where you typically see.
Freeways with a lot of truck traffic.
Right,
and-
so you are required to provide a place for them.
how can we
It
ban?
doesn't necessarily have to be in regional retail. It could be in an industrial district, it could be in a manufacturing district, it could be in any district.
That would be more, based on how much manufacturing zone we have have zoned. If we did a manufacturing zone, that would be more permissive because we have a lot more of that on the map.
How is it that we can ban truck stops and dispensaries, but not this?
Because the Supreme Court said you can't,
But they
under
didn't.
the First Amendment.
But the First Amendment?
Yeah. It's like a first
Free speech.
freedom of speech.
Well, right, but we can ban truck stops and
Didn't-
You don't have to plan for every land use. You
You
wouldn't
don't
say
have
that
to
you
plan
ban.
for every land use, but
and
this
dispensaries.
has been specifically ruled upon that you can regulate it, but you cannot prohibit it. So I guess my point is, I want to make sure that, at least with respect to the high visibility areas of the township, particularly 42, that we're not opening up the door, because that's where they would want to go, right? I mean, they're going to want to go on 42, and
Well, we're not opening up the door because currently we say it's a permitted use, or maybe that's
it's a
implied.
conditional use permit. No, you're right.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
we,
You know?
like the way it's currently structured, it's not a conditional use. It's implied that's a permitted use. That's why it's a problem.
Right,
So-
so this makes it a conditional use permit. So if we were to do anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 feet, based upon what Trustee Adler had just stated, they're probably not going to be able to locate along 42.
Probably not.
So they would
I'm willing to risk that.
probably have to rezone property somewhere else, which I think, in order to even be eligible to apply, which is what you, I guess, long story short, is
What you want. Yeah.
2,000 feet, I'd like to see it to be 2,000 feet
Okay.
across the board.
What I will do, I'm going to mark that in here on my copy. I'm going to take that under advisement, and I will do a map study, and if there's any problems, we'll circle back to the board with legal counsel.
Okay.
Okay? Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay, so regarding page 20, under 665.02, 1 through 9, wherever it says anything other than 2,000 feet, it's going to say 2,000 feet. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. All right, yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, everyone, I'm totally on board with that, but I'm a maps guy, so I will take a look at that. And we'll get back with the board when you take any other further action. The last thing to say, I appreciate your time on this. It's a lot of just in the weeds housekeeping. On pages 2 and 3, specifically on page 3 and going into the bottom of 4, there was a section that LUC pointed out to me where we had a number listed that didn't exist anymore. And so I had to cut that out. That's on the top of 4 and add in the section there. And then the section above that, Mr. Adler pointed out where it says lot sizes shall be established was very, very poorly written. Barry and I sat down and looked at that, and I worked with Jen this afternoon to take a look at that more closely and get it fixed. Here's what I'll say about those sections. When the township adopted the comprehensive plan in 2008, the township then went on a project which took over 5 years to adopt a completely new zoning resolution. As part of that, the township leadership at the time felt like they had to adopt the entire comprehensive plan into the zoning resolution. That's created a lot of problems. You don't do that. You just simply say it's reference the comprehensive plan. So I did have Jen look at that section, and like I said, Barry, I appreciate you catching that. So with that, I know that's a lot of information. Be happy to answer any questions. This is never easy, but everything is trying to make things easier for all of us, make it easier for my office to administer, and make it as permissive for our residents as we can make it while still protecting and following the purposes of zoning. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, there is a resolution in front of you. The resolution would be to accept the zoning commission's recommendation, which was approval with modifications, and then have further modifications, which is this version that's in front of you. The differences from what the zoning commission looked at is one paragraph on page 4, which Jen and I looked at, and the adult uses section, which Jen and I looked at this afternoon because it was a bigger problem.
Will that include our modifications right now?
Correct, and any further modifications because it's dated, okay? Yes, correct.
Okay.
So I'm gonna annotate a copy for you. Does that make sense, Pete, what I'm
Yep.
saying?
I'd just like to add, you missed one point on page 15 where you added that verbiage, maximum allowable areas in aggregate,
Correct.
because the LUC felt that the
Sure.
chart on the table did not state that clearly.
Correct. So there was a section that I added in at the LUC's recommendation on that page because once you cut out some other stuff, there was an error there, but that was following LUC's recommendation for the accessory building size. But on the whole, as a policy, this document, if adopted, would be more permissive for our residents who are trying to locate accessory buildings, which are one of our most common projects, and we want to be as permissive as we reasonably can be while still following the purposes of zoning.
And I'd just like to state for the record that I appreciate your work on this and the zoning commission, especially for going through a detailed review of what the LUC recommended versus what changes you made and what changes you did not make based on their modifications. So this document that's being presented to us, I think, is a result of a lot of hard work on several
agree.
parts.
Your zoning commission did, my pleasure, my pleasure. Your zoning commission did a fabulous job in reviewing this. And like I said, this work is easy. Sometimes it's boring, but I think the goal is to keep our eyes, utilize the experience that you have in our whole team, LUC, and look towards what do we want to accomplish for the good of the most people and be as permissive as we can be within reason. Pete, did I miss anything in any of that?
All good with me.
What's that?
Make a motion that includes our modifications.
You want me to make a motion? Oh, okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to the zoning resolution and official zoning map of Jerome Township, Union County, Ohio, case number ZT 24-001, as modified in the document dated February 18th, 2025, and with additional modifications as completed this evening by the board, which included additional.
Barry, I gotta interject, I'm sorry. All you need to do is see where it says, I move that. If you read that in its entirety, that'll incorporate everything that's, all you have to do is say, I move
That
that.
includes the 2,000 feet.
Correct, it's because we annotated it in the hearing.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that the recommendation of the Jerome Township Zoning Commission to approve this proposed amendment to the zoning resolution with modifications made this evening, including those made this evening, be and hereby is adopted by the board, therefore approving the amendment which, with additional modifications by the board as reflected on attachment 1. So stated.
Second.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Thank you all, thank you for your patience. I know you have
It was
other
a lot
things.
of work.
It's all for the good of the people. Mr. Caldwell has 3 copies for you to sign. People's work, yeah.
Most people hate township government because of fence permits and
We're trying to be
things
as
like
permanent,
that.
yeah.
Just like person in the township is usually the zoning inspector.
I thought it was the legal one, special
Well,
legal.
that too.
Oh, okay.
Second, one second.
Well, maybe the BZA. Oh, is there more than one copy?
Yeah, there's 3.
Oh, sorry, I did not do that.
Right here. We have to adjourn that first.
Oh, okay. Is that it for this? Okay. The time is now 7:37. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Meeting adjourned. Or hearing adjourned.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Gotta keep Debbie happy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The time is 7:39 PM. I'd like to call to order the Jerome Township Board of Trustees meeting for February 18th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mr. Adler?
Present?
Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Kraft is absent.
Can we please stand for the pledge? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we want to... All right, any changes to the agenda? I know.
Nope. Bring it.
No, we're good? All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes. Approval of the minutes. Good.
We have the minutes from the special meeting of January 21st, regular meeting of January 21st, and the regular meeting of February 4th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes. Approval of warrants?
We have the warrants per your pending warrant report. There are warrants 45371 through 45403 and 95016 through 95012.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the warrants.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes. No public participation. Public Safety Officer, hi, thank you for being here.
Deputy Reinhold, Union County Sheriff's Office. I don't have anything new to report for you guys. Any questions, comments, concerns from you guys or word on the street?
No, I think I'm all right.
How was the recent ice situation? Did you have a lot of accidents?
Yes. That day was very busy. I did some just personal research to see kind of how many in the county, and it appeared, don't quote me on it, but it looked like there was 49 incidents of either accidents, slide-offs, or injury crashes. So between all of them, it was about 49 incidents. So that was for the county. So yes, very busy day on the roads.
Oh my goodness.
Fortunately, all the roads that I've been on today seem to be pretty well cleared up. I haven't seen any issues.
Thank you.
Appreciate your service out there and stay
Stay
safe.
safe, thank you. We
Have a good
appreciate
evening.
you.
Good night.
49. Quite a bit.
Whatever that is. We're gonna go into executive session, right? Get you out of here? Yeah? All right. The time is 7:42 PM. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G8 for the purpose of discussing negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance that is to be provided or administered pursuant to 701.07 of ORC and involves public infrastructure improvements directly related to an economic development project. The executive session is necessary to protect the interests of the possible investment or expenditure of public funds to be made in connection with the proposed economic development project.
Second?
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
The time is now 8:45. I'd like to adjourn executive session.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes. All right. Oh, Brandon, I have this one.
All right. In your files, you should have two sheets like this that are quotes. This is the quotes that we have to do, replace 4 doors, both of the doors that go in and out of the road department, the one here in the hallway, and one on the exterior restroom that was damaged earlier this winter. And then in addition, there's a separate quote there that would be to do the partitions that have been, have seen their better days in the outside restrooms for privacy in both restrooms there. So the door project, as you can see, is roughly $10,000. Those are the heavy doors, insulated and so on. And then the partitions then are $4,205. So you're looking at roughly $14,205 total. Vince had worked with, he had asked for 3 different quotes. This is the company that can do both jobs. There was another company that gave us a door quote, but they do not do partitions at all. So Vince was asking that we entertain approving this. And if I understand right, Robert, this would have to be an adjustment, correct?
Yes.
To the budget. So
Can I ask what the other door quote was? Was it substantially lower than this?
I don't know if I can find it real quick or not. I thought I sent that out, but I may not have. It was from Best, I think the name was Best Door and Window.
Just one.
Yeah. I don't know if this is, yeah, here it is. We got lucky. Just to do the doors on theirs was $10,784.
Okay, so that was higher than the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
I'm fine with this. I mean, I have no issue.
Okay.
And we're okay budget-wise, we just have to reallocate it, right?
Yeah, so when you make the resolution would be to amend the budget to provide for the purchase and then
Up to
include this.
70.
Yeah, yes.
You want to say that now? And I'll say so moved.
Maybe up to 14,500.
Yes, that would be fine.
Up to
yes.
14,500.
Yes.
So amend the budget for the purchase of
The replacement,
the
4
replacement of
doors.
Doors and new
2
partitions in the bathrooms.
from Capital Door Solutions for the amount of up to 14,500?
Mhm. Second?
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
The road crew, in addition, the road crew, I don't have a fire report. The fire chief's been in training the last couple of weeks, but I'm sure we'll have one for next month. But the road crew has put in a lot of hours. I think they put in 15 hours Saturday into Sunday when this last storm hit. And then they came back in for treatment of the roads early this morning. I think they started at 4. So, I'm cautioning those guys to get their rest because, it's got to be safe when we're out there operating all of our equipment. But that was an uncertain storm, and boy, did we That was unexpected ice, snow, and everything in between. So the winds didn't help us, but they made it through. The roads look great. I was out earlier today, so that is it. We're going to be coming to you soon, or announcing soon anyway. We're going to try to move these part-time seasonals. We tended to wait a little too long, I thought, last year to get the window for applicants out there.
Oh, okay.
I would rather capture, if there's college students in the area that are anticipating needing a job, I'd like to get their applications in rather than to wait and miss them. So we'll just wait and see.
Speaking of the road crews, Vince checked in with me when I was here on Monday, and he is concerned or asked about, currently in our personnel policy, we have a maximum accrual of, or earnings of comp time of 80 hours. And he was concerned that with all the snow that they were going to go over that, and wanted to know if the board would approve allowing them to be over that 80 and not lose anything. We still have a maximum carryover at the end of the year of 40.
I mean,
I don't know if you
What's your
want to do a time
recommendation?
period or,
Yeah,
What are you recommending?
at this point, I think, if they're putting in that amount of hours like they just did, and you're accruing comp, or maybe they take some of it in cash and the other part as comp, they should be able to use it and not lose it. I would just say increase it and then stay within the bound. They would have to use it within the calendar year in order to get down to 40 hours to carry over. So as long as they're using it, see what I'm saying? They can only carry over 40 hours to the following year. So if they go 80, I don't know, if they have 90 hours, they would have to use it.
But do we want to set any limit? Are we going to say 120 hours, 200 hours?
I'm sure that would be, 120 would be fine, yeah.
And then what happens if this storm comes in December? Can we keep them to the 20 hours, or carry over if it's 20 or 40 hours and they can't use it all up?
We could come back for another motion to allow for an additional carryover.
So you're recommending then that we increase the comp maximum limit to 120 hours?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
okay.
I so move.
Second?
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
And that ends my report.
So now we're setting a public meeting.
Well, is there any zoning report?
No, the business is in new business.
Set a public meeting update to the comprehensive plan.
Madam Chair, Mr. Adler, you have a large stack of papers in front of you, which is the comprehensive plan and associated appendix and documents. I have a motion in front of me, written by legal counsel to set a public meeting for the comp plan. And your next regular meeting are our 3/11 and 3/18, is that correct? No,
3/4.
3/4. Yes, and 3/18. I just wanted to know if the board wanted to set a meeting then, or wanted to push it out to April, because, we're starting to get a lot of business coming next month. So there's no statutory requirement.
So we've got fire levy on the 18th.
And you have air, and you
Does
have,
Joe have this right now?
no, he will not have it until he comes back into town.
Yeah.
So the 4th is too soon, the 18th is too busy, now we're into April, I think. And then the question is, are we going to do the EDIP in the first week in April also, or are we going to do the comp plan and the other economic development thing that we have to take up too? So we've got a number of
So are
different...
you anticipating with,
And are there any,
are we only having one hearing on this, and then,
are there any zoning cases that are going to be coming up in this period that we've already...
There's one that you've set a hearing for next month already.
Was it the first weekend?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I was thinking it was.
I think it is because of the statutory requirement. There are two zoning, there are three zone,
I feel like you need a minute.
there are three amendments now pending before the zoning commission. The answer is you all, you can set an initial hearing, you can continue as many times as you need. It's your discretion. You can also close the hearing and direct me to come back or MKSK to come back with revisions, but you could close the hearing after the initial hearing of public comment at an appropriate time.
I mean, we could have a meeting, but I wouldn't want to make a decision in a meeting.
Right. But when do you want to set it? First week in April also, or wait till the second meeting in April?
Second meeting in April.
That would be 4/15, is that right, Robert? The 1st and the 15th? I'm filling this out for you, Mrs. Davis, I don't want to.
Okay.
In April. Yeah, I don't know. What we're gonna do.
Is that very close to your 1,000 year
Yeah,
anniversary
15.
working here?
Be close.
Yes, 1st and 15th.
1st and 15th in April.
So we'll do the edict on the first and the comp plan on the 15th.
Yes, but I will not be ready to, I feel like we can't just,
No,
okay.
The 15th?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm
think
gonna,
that works.
to Mrs. Davis, please.
Yep.
All right. This whole thing?
Per gen.
Wow. All right.
So the other economic development issue, that's gonna be at what meeting? The second one in April? Because I'll be asked about that one probably.
I thought we were putting at
Is
the
that good?
first, or you're going to do two, we can do two economic things on the first meeting in April.
Okay.
Yeah, we could.
Okay. And the edict.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you wanting me to do this too?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am. You could start where it says the Board of
The Board
Township
of,
Trustees.
the Board of Township Trustees has received the proposed update to the comprehensive plan, having a cover page entitled Jerome Township Comprehensive Plan Draft 4.0 and dated winter 2025. The board hereby directs that a public meeting on this proposed update be held on April 15th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Jerome Township Hall located at 9777 Industrial Parkway, Plain City, Ohio 43064, and further authorizes and directs the fiscal officer to make the document available for public examination and to advertise the notice of this public meeting by publication. Do you have a second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes, thanks, Eric. Hold on, I lost my. Remember that? I lost my agenda. All right, we're down to announcements. The baseball lottery will be held on Thursday, February 20th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. at the Township Hall, 9777 Industrial Parkway, Plain City, Ohio. The second annual Jerome Township Community Car Show will be held on Saturday, June 7th, 2025 on Estates Court, just off of Estates Parkway. This free event will start at 10 a.m. and includes food trucks, music, and lots of fun while visitors explore the different vehicles in the show. Are you excited, Brandon?
Oh, I am. It's gonna be great. Yeah.
Is there anything majorly different this year than last? Anything new? Any new
Yes.
additions?
Yeah, we're gonna be changing the layout a little bit to make it more user-friendly, walker-friendly, so to speak. I think we're working on, last I knew, we had a couple live bands that wanted to participate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and, I think it's growing in the community too, and that's what we wanted, the interest and support, so.
Do you have a projection of what the attendance was last year? Were you able to
Yeah,
guess?
we had to be close to, we talked about that actually. it was so hard because it was so spread out in such a large area, but we had to be close to 800 to 1,000
Wow.
people, so that's not bad for your first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll grow a
Yep.
little bit this year. That was a lot of work, thank you.
Yeah, thank
If
you.
you would like to receive notifications regarding the Board of Trustees meetings, please email the township office at jerometownship@jerometownship.com. The township is always accepting applications for positions on our zoning boards. Please visit the Jerome Township website to fill out an application. All right. Do you have anything to add? No? The time is 9:01. I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Meeting adjourned.